Joining me right now on the show, he does every Thursday at this time, Brandon Lewis. He is, of course, the founder of the Tennessee Conservative, which you can read and subscribe at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, how are you, my friend?
Yaffee, I'm great, man. I'm looking forward to a fun weekend and excited to be on your show.
Yes, me too. So, wanted to start with the stuff about Michele Reneau. So I had her on my show earlier this week. She was able to react to it, and it would just happen to be that day I was driving into work, and I saw these signs that said things like Michele Reneau equals state income tax or defunding the National Guard or something. Some stuff ridiculous. Now, I know you were a big supporter of hers as well. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm glad that the folks running the Democrat Party in the Hamilton County area apparently don't know much about politics or how to put their money wisely. These claims are so patently ridiculous because everyone knows that if you got a Republican or a Democrat, there's one that's more for an income tax and there's one that's less, like traditionally.
Yep.
We know that there's one party that consistently has pushed for defunding police and another one that has pushed against that. And even, I remember during COVID here in Tennessee, the Democrats were the one who wanted to put up a Black Lives Matter mural on the roads, and one of their primary tenets was defunding police. And so I think they would have done a lot better trying to hit her on splinter issues versus the ones that they've trotted out. But it's funny. You read all this stuff in the Times Free Press, which is populated almost exclusively by Democrat reporters, and it's a corporate media outlet that reflects those views. And she said, what was it? The lady Campbell said that Michele Reneau is no Patsy Hazelwood. And I'm not sure what audience she's trying to appeal to, but somebody needs to keep this woman in her position. I would even donate to her campaign if she decides to run for chair again, because she is not doing the best. And I'll say one last thing. They put up these Esther Helton signs pointing to her voting record, and that was effective, right? Trying to suppress GOP turnout by talking about some of her more liberal votes. But this thing with Michele doesn't make any sense. Like, when I saw that, I thought, well, that's real bright. That makes a lot of sense. Of course, they left the disclaimer off of it, and I think they figured out that was illegal. And so in the next round, they did put the disclaimer on it. But I'm just having a hard time figuring out the strategy on this Michele Reneau push.
Yeah, I love that. She's no Patsy Hazelwood. Well, duh. That was the point. That's why she won the primary. Now, I will say it's interesting because her Democrat opponent is not the one putting this out or endorsing this. It was the Hamilton County Democratic Party. It seems like, at least from what I've seen, Kathy Lennon is trying to really campaign more as a moderate Democrat, not trying to be too far to the left. I don't think it's going to work. I think Michele Reneau is still going to win. She's more conservative. But what do you think about that?
Of course, every Democrat in Tennessee tries to run as a moderate. Mm-hmm. That's, like every wolf that's coming up on a flock of sheep does it quietly and sneakily. And I'm one of you. But she has been for boys playing in girls' sports. If you look at, she's all about the environmental movement, which is essentially just, in my opinion, a ruse to control people and to shuffle around money and award winners and losers, like we've seen with the Ford Motor Company debacle. I think a recent report shows that they've lost yet another $1.2 billion. I think this is for $6.2 billion or something like that they've lost. And, we're trying to dump $2 billion into it. What a bad investment. But nonetheless, I don't think it's going to resonate. They should have stuck, in my opinion, their resources in Helton's race, because the spread on the hard D's and the hard R's is a lot smaller. But instead, they're trying to do what most people do with their marketing dollars, and that's go a mile wide and an inch deep, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I tend to think you're right there. I know I've asked you this before, but what do you think helped Michele against Patsy Hazelwood to begin with? We were just talking about she's no Patsy Hazelwood. I had asked her that question when she was on my show this week, and she was pretty humble, but she was just saying need new leadership. There were some things where she was really wanting to stand for the constituents. What do you think it was?
Well, it's just it's a combination of things. So, it is very difficult to defeat someone with a very conservative voting record. However, when you vote on fundamental issues like illegal immigration, medical freedom, Second Amendment, abortion, and they're not where GOP primary voters are. And one thing that you hear, this common refrain from rhinos, is that GOP primary voters in Tennessee are moderate, and they are not. I mean, I've looked at the surveys. I know more about what a GOP primary voter thinks in Tennessee than probably anybody else in Tennessee, because I see the internal polling of these candidates, because I have good relationships with them across the state, and then we do our own polling. Of course, these are the hyper-interested folks. But what I have found is the daylight between folks that subscribe to our publication and your average rank-and-file voter, it is hardly any different at all. Now, you may have some collar counties in really big metros like Nashville that are a little bit more moderate, but we don't have that in Hamilton County. And so those votes, which hopefully folks in the Hamilton County delegation will take note of and begin correcting their behavior moving forward, is really what allows a candidate to come in. But then, we raised an adequate amount of money, though outspent 20 to 1. The ground game was phenomenal, as Michele had mentioned on her interview with you, 200 plus volunteers. Yaffee, there have been times I have not seen that in congressional campaigns. And it was just amazing. And it's Michele's personality, it's her charm, and she really cares about people. She gets along with them. That you can't fake that. You can get some old crusty toadies if you've been elected to come help you a little bit. Like, they'll do it enough to show their face to the candidate, but they're not going to get in there and fight and put hundreds of hours into doing something that doesn't pay. But Michele was able to recruit folks like that, and she had a winning strategy and a good consultant and help from folks that had not been engaged in things like this before. So it really was a multi-pronged effort, and it's an amazing story, and I think it's a template, in my opinion, for other conservative candidates that want to elect Republicans that are more in line with GOP primary voters and less aligned with the corporations that often fund them.
Speaking with Brandon Lewis, he is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative, which you can read at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. So you got another story on your site today about how books with inappropriate content were removed from school libraries to comply with updated Tennessee law. It's kind of sad that these books were there to begin with, but what's the latest there? It's good to see that at least Tennessee law is working.
Well, it is, because they had to adjust it. The first time they passed this law with a previous version, it was so painstaking and aggravating, and parents could not get anything done, that they had to revise it, because it is amazing how resistant these government education people are. And the Democrats to cleaning this garbage out of our school libraries. I mean, it's bad enough. The kids can barely read and write at grade level. It's like about a third in Tennessee can read at grade level. So, I mean, I'm sure many of these books that are above a fifth grade level, even if they're dirty, they're just looking at the pictures instead of reading the words. But the Democrats who control public education, and it's in a sad state these days, I think if they had their wish, Yaffee, they'd have a little curtained off area in the library, and they could just put all the dirtiest things in there, like they used to have in the old video rental stores back in the 80s. It'd be like, the librarian would shuffle them through the back, and so but today, right? It's all a part of this, open-mindedness about any and all behaviors. But we know from studies that folks that particularly people that try to change their gender, quote unquote, you can't do it, right? The higher rates of suicide, depression, anxiety. There's a disproportionate number of school shooters that are transgender. And while we would want to push that mentality on our children while we're failing at the fundamentals is amazing to me. But luckily, here in Wilson County, they were able to clean their libraries up. And maybe some point in the future, Yaffee, you might have the Moms for Liberty chapter on your program to talk about what's going on in Hamilton County schools in that regard, because I know that they have been pretty active in it.
Yeah, I had a good relationship with them in Alabama, so I'll definitely want to get them on, talk about what they're doing in Tennessee as well. It's a great group there. It's interesting. Every time this is brought up, though, the left tries to portray it as we're censoring speech, that we're trying to ban books or burn books or something. Um, it never made sense to me because it's like we've always curated content for kids in libraries and schools. It's always been a thing. All of a sudden now it's like anything goes. That makes no sense, right?
Well, they want to censor political speech, but they want, filth to be like commonplace. It's amazing what they think should be censored, which is really the linchpin of our republic is free speech. That's why they made it the First Amendment. The First Amendment. It's the most important amendment. Like, okay, wait a minute here. If we can shut off the press, which they have tried to fundamentally do, and you've seen these stories with YouTube censoring Joe Rogan's interview with Trump, with all of the recently released information about how Facebook and other big tech platforms have censored and shut down the Hunter Biden laptop story, and then here in Tennessee, about 3 or 4 years ago, we had more interaction than any other news publication on Facebook, even though we were young, than the Times Free Press, Knox News Sentinel combined. And then one day they just completely shut us down, and it's because of our conservative content. So we're living in a time where Democrats want to poison the minds of children and under the flag of free speech, but they simultaneously want to censor information about how bad the economy and the border is. And so it's a weird place to be in, Yaffee. I never thought when we were kids that I would see the First Amendment under attack. I thought it was a given, but apparently it's not.
Well, and it's always amazing, too, because you bring up like the 10 Commandments in the classroom or something. Oh, the outrage. They get so upset. But you have transgender nonsense, and they're like, how dare you take that out of the classroom? I mean, it really does reveal a lot. Brandon Lewis is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. I really appreciate you coming on. As always, my friend. I know we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, buddy. Talk to you then.
All right, there you go. If you want to react to that, we have our text monster, 423-267-1023. What you really want to do, though, is subscribe at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. The Tennessee Conservative, it is a great publication. If you're looking for a conservative alternative to state and Chattanooga news, go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com. I get a lot of my stuff for the Tennessee Bullet Points from that site. A lot of great stuff. They also have some national news and opinion as well. TennesseeConservativeNews.com, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Subscribe to their newsletter today. When you do, let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you.